Now, as the month of August comes to an end, the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency is advising Nigerians in some states to prepare for flooding to avert the loss of lives and property. About 102 local governments in 28 states fall within the highly probable flood risk areas. The agency says the middle Niger of the River Niger Basin is currently overflowing, and the magnitude of flood from this area is expected to arrive the country through Kebbi State around September the 6th. Communities along the coastal lines are on red alert and must now move to safe grounds as the next few weeks will come with heavy rains. Well, joining me via Skype here in Lagos is Philip Jakbo, the Director of Programs, Corporate Accountability and Public Participation, Africa, CAPA. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Good morning, and thank you very much for having me on the show. All right, before this alert, there was a previous alert by the Meteorological Center talking about how the country will face issues of flash floodings and a lot of heavy rains. And now we're having this alert again coming in, talking about the Niger Basin being overflowing its bank, coming in through Kebbi. I wonder how much of a concern this is for you, seeing some communities are already witnessing flash floods. Well, I think it's a thing of concern for me and should be for every Nigerian because it has suddenly become a ritual to raise this alert about flooding coming, the forecasts. But unfortunately, what we've not seen, and which is the missing link there, is what we as a people, put in place to ensure that our people do not, suffer the kind of impacts we've seen, especially since 2012. With these floods, what we're going to suffer as a people will include, loss of farmlands. A lot of farmlands will be swamped. We are going to have displacements. We are also going to have deaths. So at this point, we don't think it is best that we always have these alerts that are not matched with actions. People are being asked to evacuate. The question will always be, where do you want them to evacuate to? By now, what we should be hearing is that NEMA and its state chapters in partnership with state governments have set up, places where families that live along the banks of the Niger can evacuate to, since this has become a yearly ritual. It happens in other climes. We have the hurricane season in the US. It's always there. People are asked to evacuate to certain places. But in our own case, what we just hear is people should evacuate, and people end up, fending for themselves. So it's a ritual that is very, very unfortunate. Do you think that, Philip, let me interrupt your line of thoughts for a minute. Do you think that why we are not seeing action matching the level of alerts we have been receiving over the years is as a result of we not fully understanding the impact this is having with regards to what this is costing us over the years? Well, I don't want to look at it from that prism because the agencies of government, NEMA, Nigeria Hydrological Services, NIMET, they make predictions. That's why they are set up. The reason why we have not been able to match words with action is the bigger Nigerian problem. So I don't think they don't know the impacts. All of us know, for instance, that we are within the planting season. Farmers are planting at this moment, and when you have these floods, they have to move away. They are displaced. It will affect, as a layman, I know that. So we want to ask why people in government who should know better and then plan better will not know. So I don't think that is the bigger issue. The bigger issue is the will to do something and do something right, and which they are not doing. So what should it be now moving forward? Because September the 6th is just a few weeks away from now. And the people have been asked to perhaps find a way
out? What can the people on their own do to protect themselves and also complement government efforts in the long run?
Well, I don't see much happening on the part of government. Most of these people who live in areas contiguous of the River Niger, in this case, you have a lot of states. You have Niger, you have Nasarawa, you have Adamawa, you have Kogi. It's massive. So it involves NEMA working with the state chapters and state governments. They must work collaboratively. Now set up those centers where people can quickly evacuate to. We are talking about a week or so gap between now and that time. Already the floods have started occurring in the 9 countries that share the Niger River Basin with us: Benin, Mali, Chad. So it's coming down. Nigeria is at the lower part of the basin, so we are going to feel the impact even more than those countries up there. So it is time for rapid response. It is not a state of emergency should be declared and actions taken. So it's not this talk on the part of these agencies has not done us any good. We have learned, by now we should have learned a lot of lessons, because this kind of disasters, started in 2012. In 2012, they set up government set up some committees to look at issues. 2012 today, that's 8 years. Every year we have become better in terms of the alerts. At the beginning of the year we hear it. But what Nigerians should start demanding on the part of the government is that stop talking. They talk. That's what they are not doing. Why is it that in places, we just had the Hurricane Laura in the US. Before it happened, there were a lot of, we're reading it in the news, we're watching it. The government were talking about how to evacuate people, even with COVID-19 in mind, put them in hotels, put them in different centers. Plans were made. So they were not talking so much about what was going to happen, but about what people must do, where people must go to. That's what we're not seeing. NEMA is in Abuja, which is its headquarters. If you go to their website, except it has changed between last week and what we read there is that they have only one chopper.
All right.
Now, every year in the past few years, we've been talking about the issue of the projection on how the rain patterns are going to impact on people, flooding and all of that. And the advice usually is that people who live along flood-prone areas should move to higher grounds and all of that. But nothing seemed to happen over the years. What do you think is the bigger challenge here?
Well, first things first, I think there's already the prediction that the floods will come, but already it's happening. In the last 1-2 weeks, we have had flood impacts already in Jigawa. I think about 200 houses were destroyed when floods occurred, I think about 2 weeks ago. The same thing happened in Yobe, about 100 or so houses were destroyed, swept away. So you're talking about 100 households in the case of Yobe. You're also talking about 200 households, which includes women and children, in the case of Jigawa. So it's coming. But like I've said time and again, the bigger challenge is that government has not matched the predictions with action. What I think we should start hearing, and this is a collaboration between NEMA and the state chapters and of course the state governments, is to ensure that we have places on standby all the time for people who are likely to be displaced, people who live in areas contiguous of the River Niger. And in this case, I think about 11 or so states are going to be affected. So you have people spreading from like Kogi, Kwara, Niger, Benue. You're going to have people along these banks affected. So what we will have expected, because it's still ahead, the prediction, we're expecting these things to start happening, according to them, even though it's already happening, from around September. So what are the plans on that? There are no plans. 2 weeks ago, I think NEMA was in one of these states doing some sensitization of the people. But the sensitization is about people, the farmers, keeping vigil and watching the floodwaters as they rise, and then they move. So it's about people being told to evacuate, but no plan for where they will move to. We have the hurricane season in the US, for instance. We are within that period, and it spans between now and I think till like October. All you hear the states, Florida and the rest of them talk about is they have set up places where people can evacuate to, even taking into consideration COVID-19, so that people don't end up moving from one place to the other and spreading the virus. So there are plans.
Okay.
But unfortunately, we don't have these kind of plans. When these things even happen, when people are cut off in remote areas, you never get to see, for instance, choppers, taking off from Abuja or wherever, and
evacuating people.
You don't see speedboats. So these are the kind of things people want to see. People want to, apart from the education, people want to see what NEMA, in partnership with the state governments, have done or are doing, but it's not there.
All right, we have to leave you here now. Thank you so much, Philip Jakbo, for your time on the program. Thank you.